There is a wooden porch behind my house that faces west, and on summer evenings, right around the time the light goes golden and the heat finally breaks, my wife and I sit out there. We have been sitting on that porch together for 34 years, and from that porch I can see the yard, the garden, the tree line, and every one of my grandchildren doing what children do when nobody hands them a screen. They are catching fireflies in jars. They are building something out of sticks that will fall over in 10 minutes. They are arguing about the rules of a game they invented an hour ago. They are bored, and then 5 minutes later, they are not bored anymore because they solved it on their own. My name is Elias Yoder. I am Amish. I have raised 5 children in a house with no television, no tablet, no telephone in the pocket, not one screen of any kind. And I will tell you something that would sound like bragging if it were not the plain truth. My children are not anxious. My grandchildren are not anxious. They sleep well. They work well. They know how to sit still in a room with nothing happening and not feel like the walls are closing in. And then I hear what is happening in the houses around this country, the English houses, and forgive me, that is just what we call folks outside our community, no disrespect in it. I hear that the average American child between the ages of 8 and 18 now spends 7.5 hours a day looking at a screen. 7.5 hours. That is more time than they spend sleeping, more time than they spend in school. And the children are not doing well. The researchers are finally saying out loud what my grandmother could have told them 50 years ago. And then I am going to tell you the part that should make you uneasy. Because the people who built those screens, the people sitting in glass office buildings in California, they did not build them for your child's benefit. They built them to hold your child's attention because attention is what they sell, and a bored child is a lost customer. By the end of this, you will know exactly what the Amish do differently, what the science says about why it works, and 4 things you can do in your own household this week that will not cost you a single dollar. Stay with me. Here is where I need to start, and it is not where you think. It is not about screens, not yet. It is about boredom. The English treat boredom like a disease. The moment a child says the words, "I am bored," somebody reaches for a device. The phone comes out, the tablet lights up, the problem is solved in 3 seconds flat. But here is the thing about solving it that fast. You did not solve anything. You just taught that child that discomfort is an emergency and that the fix comes from a machine in somebody else's hand. In my house, when a child says, "I am bored," the answer has always been the same. Good. Go find something. That is the whole speech. Go find something. And what happens next is the part the researchers are only now beginning to measure. The child fidgets. The child wanders. The child stares at the ceiling for a while. And then something shifts in that small mind, and they pick up a piece of rope or a stick or an old coffee can, and they make something out of nothing. They invent a game. They build a fort. They sit in the dirt and watch ants carry a crumb 3 times their size, and suddenly they are fascinated by something real in the real world that nobody put there for them. A woman named Dr. Sandy Mann, a psychologist over in England, studied this and put numbers on it. She found that boredom is not a blank space. It is an engine. When the brain has nothing handed to it, it goes looking, and what it finds is creativity. A researcher at the University of Virginia named Jamie Jarut found the same thing from a different angle. She studies curiosity in children, and her work says that curiosity fires up exactly in the gap between what a child knows and what a child wants to know, and that gap only opens when there is nothing already filling it. You cannot be curious about the world while a screen is telling you what to look at. You have to get bored first. Boredom is not the disease. Boredom is the doorway. The American Academy of Pediatrics said it plainly. Unstructured play is fundamentally important for building the skills children need. Problem solving, collaboration, creativity, not a suggestion, fundamentally important. That was back in 2018, and I promise you, There was not one Amish parent in Lancaster County or Holmes County or Shipshewana who read that and was surprised. Now here is what daily life looks like in an Amish household, and I want you to picture it because it is so different from what the English children experience that it might as well be a different planet. In my house, a child of 4 or 5 is already part of the work, not punished with chores, not bribed into helping, just included. My youngest granddaughter helps her mother collect eggs every morning. She carries 2 at a time, walking slow, proud of herself for not dropping them. My grandsons stack kindling, they help feed the animals, they sweep the porch, and yes, they do a terrible job at age 5, but nobody expects perfection. The point is not the clean porch. The point is the child learning that their hands matter, that they are needed, that the family does not run without them. By the time that child is 10, they can do real work. They can handle a horse. They can tend a garden row on their own. They can cook a simple meal. And something happens to a child who can do real work. They carry themselves differently. There is a steadiness in them. They do not need a like on a screen or a notification on a phone to know they are valuable, because they woke up that morning and saw the proof in the feed bucket and the firewood and the eggs in the basket. We have a word for this in our faith: Gelassenheit, Gelassenheit. It is German and there is no clean English translation for it, but the closest I can get is this. It means yielding, giving yourself up to something larger than your own wants, contentment, a calm spirit. A man named Donald Crable, a professor at Elizabethtown College who has studied our communities for decades, calls it the core value of Amish society, the opposite of the bold individualism that tells every child they must stand out, build a brand, perform their life for strangers on the internet. We teach Gelassenheit to our children from the time they are small, not with a lecture, with a life. They see it in the way their father waits his turn. They see it in the way their mother yields to the needs of the household before her own comfort. They learn it the way a child learns everything real, not by being told, but by watching. Now here is where the science catches up, and I have to say, it brings me no pleasure to watch the researchers confirm what we already knew, because the cost of learning it this late has been heavy. In 2024, a professor of social psychology at New York University named Jonathan Haidt published a book called The Anxious Generation. And what he showed, with charts and data going back years, is that something broke in American childhood right around the time smartphones landed in the hands of young people. Between 2010 and 2015, anxiety, depression, and loneliness among adolescents began to climb, and the curve has not come back down. He called it the Great Rewiring. What happened, he says, is not that parents gave children a phone. What happened is that the phone replaced the childhood, the play, the boredom, the skinned knees, the unsupervised afternoons, the long stretches of nothing that turn into something. All of it got swapped out for a glowing rectangle. And here is the part the brain researchers now understand. Every time a child gets a notification, a like, a new level in a game, the brain releases a small hit of dopamine. Dopamine. That is the chemical that makes you feel rewarded. And a screen can deliver those hits faster than any real experience in the physical world, faster than finishing a chore, faster than building a birdhouse, faster than sitting with your grandmother on the porch and hearing a story. The child's brain learns very quickly that the screen is where the reward lives and everything else feels flat. A child raised on those quick hits has a harder time sitting still, a harder time waiting, a harder time doing anything that takes patience and does not pay off in 3 seconds. The researchers call it dopamine desensitization. My grandfather would have called it a child who cannot stand to wait for supper. Let me pause here for a moment, because I read every one of these comments, every single one. And I know there are parents watching right now who feel a weight in their chest because they know this is their house. I want to say something to you. I am not talking to you from a place of judgment. I am talking to you from a place of respect. You are raising children in a world that was designed to steal their attention, and you did not build that world. Somebody else did. Somebody who profits from it. What I want you to know is that the door is not locked. You can walk your family back from this, and you do not have to become Amish to do it. But I do have to be honest with you, because honesty is the only thing I have to offer that is worth anything. Taking the screen away is not the whole answer. I know people want it to be that simple. Pull the plug and the child blooms, but that is not how it works. A child raised on screens who suddenly has the screen taken away is going to feel like the walls are closing in. That is real, and pretending otherwise does not help anyone. What the Amish have is not just the absence of a screen. It is the presence of everything else. It is the family in the kitchen. It is the work that needs doing. It is the neighbor who shows up. It is the long evenings on the porch where nothing happens and nobody minds. The structure around the child matters as much as the thing you take out of the child's hands. Now here is where somebody in a glass building gets a little nervous. And this is the part I promised you. There is a reason nobody in the technology industry is running advertisements telling you to hand your 4-year-old a phone. They do not have to. They built the product so that you would do it on your own. The numbers tell the story plainly. Roughly half of all children under the age of 8 in this country now own their own mobile device. Half of them under 2 years old have already touched a screen. There is an enormous amount of money in a child's attention. Advertising revenue, subscription fees, in-app purchases, engagement metrics that get sold to companies you will never hear the name of. A bored child picking up sticks in the yard is worth nothing to anyone in that business. A child staring at a screen for 7 hours is worth quite a lot. Nobody made this illegal. Nobody had to. They just made it so easy and so cheap and so everywhere that opting out feels like the strange choice. The Amish did not opt out. The Amish were never in, and their children are calm and capable and content, and the researchers are finally starting to ask why. Here is what I want you to do. 4 things, and not one of them costs $1. First, protect 1 hour every evening. No screens for anyone, including you, not as a punishment, as a practice. Sit at the table, go outside, talk to your children about what happened today. It will feel uncomfortable at first if your household is not used to it. Stay with it. Second, when your child says, "I am bored," do not fix it. Resist the urge. Let the boredom sit there. It will not hurt them. It will do the opposite. That boredom is the gap where curiosity lives, and if you fill it every time, the child never learns to fill it on their own. Third, give your child real work, not busy work, not a chore chart with gold stars, something that actually matters to the household. Let them help cook, let them help in the garden, let them carry firewood, let them see that their contribution is real and needed. A child who knows they are useful does not need a screen to tell them they are valuable. Fourth, eat supper together. This is the oldest trick in the world, and it costs nothing, and it works every time. Sit down. Say grace if that is your way. Look at each other. Pass the bread. Talk. The table is the center of the family, and the Amish have never moved it. So here is what I want you to picture. 1 month from now, a warm evening, the screen is off. Your children are outside or at the table or just sitting on the floor, building something out of nothing. They are not anxious. They are not begging for a device. They are bored for 5 minutes, and then they are not because they figured it out. And you are watching them from the porch or the kitchen doorway, and for the first time in a long time, the house is quiet in the way that means something good is happening. The folks in my community already know this works. I am writing this for the folks outside it who were never told. There is something my grandfather kept in a cedar chest at the foot of his bed, a bundle of letters his own father had written, sent across from the old country before anyone in this family had ever set foot in Pennsylvania. And in one of those letters, there is a line I have never forgotten. He wrote, "Do not raise the child for the world. Raise the child so that the world cannot take them." I think about that when I sit on the porch and watch the fireflies and listen to my grandchildren arguing about the rules of a game that does not exist yet. Next time, I want to tell you about something the Amish have practiced in marriage for 200 years that every counselor in the country is now calling a breakthrough. It is not a breakthrough. It is just patience. And I will show you exactly how it works. The people who built this country with their hands knew things we are only just starting to remember.